Okay, now we are on to the tail. So I have all of our tail pieces lined up right here for us. We have the tail sides and the tail side tips. They all line up like this. This is the top of where the tail is supposed to be. And then see how it curves around and you have your tail tip pointing up like that. Then we have the tail's top, which is the center of the top of the tail. It's kind of like a gusset. So it's just making it wider and a fatter, more full tail. So the first thing that we need to do is line up our dots right here on the sides so that they line up, and we're going to stitch right across from EE to DD. See how the tail tip doesn't necessarily fit with the 1/4 of an inch seam allowance? It's a lot longer. So make sure that you are lining up your dots and not just the tips of your fabric. Okay, I'm going ahead here and I am pinning the tail tip together. So we're just going to sew straight from EE over to DD, and it really doesn't matter. You can go right along the edge, you can end at each end. That does not matter. You don't have to stop at the dots. But we're going to do that for this one, and then we're going to do the same thing with this one. Okay, then we are going to do the same thing and put the right sides together for this tail, the tail top, and line up your dots again, and we're going to pin this into place. And we're going to sew right across the top of that too. Now this one, see how it has 2 DDs? This was a little bit confusing for some people, and let me help you understand why. Because this is the top of the tail, so it's going to line up here at this DD, and it's also going to line up here with this DD. See how that works? So that's why there are 2 DD markings. Okay, let's go ahead and sew across the top of each of these. Okay, so here is our tail top, and then our 2 tail sides. See how they're both stitched together? So now we have our tail tips on there. Let me show you how to lay them out. So we're going to start by lining up our seams and lining up our DD seams right there. Make sure that your seams are lined up. So that's what's going to be the most obvious if they're not lined up. So pin there, open up your seams. And pin that into place. Now, when we're pinning this way, I'm gonna move my pins to my right side where my right hand is. Okay, so when we pin this way, we're gonna go all the way across. We're gonna ease this over so that it's straight. And it is actually not going to make it to the end of the tip. The dot on this side and the 2 dots on this side don't get to the tip, and that's okay. I'm going to show you what we're going to do with that in a minute. So just line up your dots, but more importantly, lining up your seam. That's going to be a lot more obvious in the finished product that it's not lined up than over here at the tail tip. So keep working your way around. We're going to pin this way. So we're pinning here, we're pinning here. When we get to F, we're gonna stop. We are not going to continue. So let's do that. We're gonna go from dot, the end dot here, up and around and over and down to F, and then we're gonna stop. Okay, so here is on one side. And we see how we stopped right at FF. Now make sure you clip these curves right here, and then this one's a lot less noticeable, but you can clip right there too, because that's a curve as well. Okay, once we get that done, this is what it looks like on this side. See how we open it up? And then there's that one. Okay, so this is the tail top, and this is the side of the tail. So now we have our tail top over here, and we have this DD here, and then on your FF right there. And there's your end piece. So we're gonna take our other tail, and we're gonna line up our seams again right here at DD. And line them up right here again. This is the important spot because it's going to be super obvious if these two seams are not lined up. Everything else we can fake if it's not lined up. Okay, so let's pin that. Okay, then we're going to ease this in to line up with the tail tip. And then once again, we're just going to go to the dot. See how there's going to be a gap there between our stitches? That's okay because we're going to fix it in a minute. Just keep pinning. Does anybody else sing that when they are pinning? Just keep pinning, just keep pinning. I also sing it when I'm stuffing. Just keep stuffing, just keep stuffing. What do? We pin, pin, pin. Okay. So just stop at F because we don't want to keep going and catch this, our other side piece in that. So make sure you pull that out of the way so that it doesn't get in the way. Okay. Can you guys see that? Here is that stitch. We went all the way down and around and we stopped down at F. Okay, so clip your curves so that they lay flat or nicely. Okay, so this is what we have. Our tail tip is sewn on. See it in there? If we were to reverse it out, this is what it would look like. And then we have our two sides sewn on. So the next step is to line up our two sides, and then once again line up your seam first because that's going to make the biggest difference on what it looks like at the end. Open your seams so that they lay flat, and then line them all up. This is where we're going to take care of this little tip right here that we have. We are going to open this up. Look, so we're going to pull this out. We're going to open it up so that the pinch, we're going to have to pinch it. So it is sitting on top, just like that. And we're going to sew, leave our gap here to be able to turn it and then to stuff it. And we're going to sew up here through this seam, and we're going to keep going past this line, and we're going to go up and catch that little tip. It just adds a nice little tip to the end of that tip. So let's do that. Actually, I think I'm going to open up these seams so that they sit nice too. But just make sure that you pull this up on the top, the tail top, to get it so that it sits nicely, and you get that little pinch up above the end. See how I opened it right there? And this one lines up really easily, but pin it if you feel like you need to. So do you see that? That's the end of the tail. You went all the way from GG and around, leave that gap. See, that's just a thread. And then you're gonna come around and there's your tail tip. You can definitely clip this off to make it a cleaner tip so that it comes out a little bit better, and then clip these. Okay, so then you turn this around, flip it out. Oh, geez, leave a bigger hole if you feel like you need to. You know, also really helps is if you have your hemostats out. Grab your little hemostats. I actually buy my hemostats from Harbor Freight. Does anybody else have a Harbor Freight where they're from? They cost like $3. So you can feel like you can get as many of those as you want. And then when your children ruin them or whatever, you can buy a new pair. They actually have 3 or 4 options. I just get the basic ones. And they work awesome. Okay, and here is your tail. There's your little tip, and here's this. So this is what the tail top looks like. This is where, right here, when you push this out, push this unfinished edge out. So you have one unfinished edge still. This is where you're gonna put the tail into the body. And here's your tail top. And all your pieces, you can see where I've marked it. And then I can keep pushing that out a little bit, but it's going to be a nice little tip for that tail. Anyway, so there's the tail.